What's up, guys? I got a brand new video for you today. Happy Valentine's Day. Canon was my Valentine until they broke my heart. So as many of you know, I started out on Canon and I still shoot with Canon. I have a C200, a 5D Mark IV, and a bunch of Canon lenses, Canon glass, and I've just been looking for a reason to jump into the RF system, but Canon just isn't there yet for me. Obviously, they just announced a bunch of new lenses, the Holy Trinity, the 15-35, the 24-70, and the 70-200 2.8, and a couple of primes, so the 85 f1.2, and they already have the 50 1.2. So they've got like all the lenses that I would want, but they just don't have the camera body that I'd want. Now I know that a lot of pros are dipping their toes into the EOS R. My friend Kevin, he bought two, and that's leaving behind the 5D Mark IV and stuff, and he loves them. But I personally feel like I need those dual card slots and a couple of other features that I'm getting from Sony, like full frame 4K video, that I can't get from the Canon system right now. And I have the 5D Mark IV, which is basically the same specs as the EOS R, other than the flip screen, the autofocus points, and 10-bit out and stuff like that. But Canon just launched this new camera, the EOS RP, which people are starting to dub the Canon RIP. And this camera is supposed to be an entry-level full-frame camera. I'm sure a bunch of you guys have already watched the reviews on this camera. Canon aggressively prices camera for a full-frame camera at $12.99, but who really cares if the camera isn't really that great? Like, in my opinion, some of Canon's older cameras are actually better. And when it comes to a few things like video, I wouldn't even look at this camera. And getting into the specs, again, 4K cropped, so you're not getting the full frame 4K. And they've also removed the dual pixel autofocus off the 4K like the M50. And the EOS R obviously has the dual pixel with the 4K. And the thing that baffles my mind is that, of course, they're offering the 1080p, but no 24 frames per second, just 30 and 60, and that's at the lower compression rate. So IPB, there's gonna be no all-I, which is actually really good 1080p in the 5D Mark IV, and also on the EOS R. And there's gonna be no 120 frames per second in 720p, which is literally leaving you with not too many video options. And it just makes me kind of question what Canon is going for. They've tried their hardest to not have anything step on the toes of any other camera. And we see this again, time and time again in every Canon camera. Even my own C200 and the bit rates, they don't want to step on the C300 Mark II. So I know how Canon works. I just wish they would not work that way. And we get into some other specs that are kind of fishy, like obviously it has a UHS 2 card slot, that's fine, no dual card slots. They put USB Type-C on this camera, which is awesome, that's the newest industry standard. But I had to look this up on the site because I saw this somewhere else, and Canon says it's going to be running at USB 2 speeds. So they're using USB Type-C, but throttling it to USB 2.0, which is not very fast, and it's 2019. Now this will have the dual pixel autofocus in photos and things like that, which is just awesome. The autofocus on Canon is great. That's the best thing they have going, which baffles my mind again why they wouldn't put it in the 4K. They obviously got rid of the touch bar that the EOS R has and the top display. And it's fine, they want you to use your thumb on the screen to choose autofocus points. This camera will not cover the entire frame with autofocus points like the EOS R has. Again, entry-level camera, that's to be expected. And if you can tell that I'm not impressed, Canon goes and does something even stupider. They take the battery out of the Rebel system and throw it into this camera instead of the LP E6N battery, which is in all the other Canon DSLRs. So this thing's gonna suffer from having like poor battery life. It's gonna have the 6D Mark II sensor, which I've done tests on in the past. You've probably watched my videos where I found that the dynamic range at the lower ISOs is actually worse than the 6D. And even up into the higher ISOs, it's really not that much better. But I do think this camera will still be good as a photo camera, and you're still gonna be able to get like amazing photos. There's nothing wrong with the photo side of the camera. It's just crazy that this camera is in this weird place of specs where it's like, makes me mad because I love Canon so much, and I just want to see them get to the point they were at back 10 years ago when we were all shooting with Canon cameras, stoked on the video quality and the image quality that we could get out of these cameras. So this camera's not gonna be a speed demon for, sport shooting or wildlife. It's gonna only do 5 frames per second, which is what I'm expecting from Canon these days. And that's not even with the servo autofocus. If you want to use the servo autofocus, it's only going to be 4 frames per second. Now, one thing I was just reading that I found out is that it will have the digital image stabilization, so it's not going to have IBIS, obviously, but Canon does the digital IS not too bad, and you know, I tried it out on a 60 Mark II and it was all right. They've also lowered the resolution in the EVF, which is fine. You know, you'd expect that in an entry-level camera. The crazy thing is Fuji just launched their sort of entry-level camera, which is the X-T30 at $899, which is quite a bit cheaper than this camera, and it has like all the things that this camera should actually have. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm not super stoked about the situation. What do you guys think? Leave a comment below and let me know what you guys think. Are you a Canon shooter? Are you moving on from Canon? Have you already moved on from Canon, and what are you shooting with now? Anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you dislike this video, give it a thumbs down twice. Don't forget to hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next one.